biome.
All right, we're on. We're live. I just clicked the button. All right, so this is the first part of our book club. We're covering the Alchemist book. If you guys don't have it, grab it. You can follow along with us, or you can find it on the audiobook on YouTube for free and just listen to it. So we're going to go through some questions. We're going to talk about part 1 today, and we're going to meet up next week and talk about part 2, depending on how far we get today. And if I seem a little messed up right now, it's because we were just in a really good chat, and I just clicked the live button and just rolled with it. So here we are.
And I wanted to finish my thought.
Yeah, well, you'll have to write it down, and we'll have to circle back. So you got something you can start with, or do you want me to just go with one of mine? I mean, I kind of want to ask the first question, honestly, but it's weak.
Absolutely, go.
I wanted to start more with the thought of the book versus like the actual storyline. Like, what did you actually think of the writing of the book and how it's kind of crafted?
It's really kind of a hard read, honestly. You have to kind of go back and forth. And am I catching this? Because there's stories inside the stories. He goes off into his path. It's anybody that's read it kind of knows, but they're using that for all the metaphors that go along with the metaphor that's going along with his story. So once you've read it for the 5th time, fourth for me, you start seeing what they're doing with it. But it's a hard first read. Yeah, but man, I love it. Obviously, that's why I chose it for the first one, because I don't know.
I thought I chose it for the first one. Do you think you chose it? I thought I chose it for the first one.
Did you?
I'm pretty sure I chose it.
No, I don't care.
I would agree with you. I thought it was a really tough read because my mind tends to wander really bad, and there was a lot of times I was reading it and I was kind of thinking like, what's going on right now? How did he get from the plaza drinking wine and now he's in a castle and there's a girl? Like, and I'd have to back up and I would be like hitting the back button. And then I think it would be really a lot easier to listen to this if you're going to do it on Audible. That way you can keep track of the chapters, or to actually read the book. But it is available on YouTube for free. That's how I read most of it. Was
I agree. The 4th time, that's last time, I had to go to the coffee shop, put headphones on, listen to it on Audible, and just focus. And I still had to, I was writing stuff down, going back, writing stuff, going back. I'm like, and I've read this 3 times before. So, anyway, yeah.
I was listening to it earlier, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to write this down. And I'd go to my notes. I'm like, oh, I already wrote that down. So it's it's just such a complicated read. But I'm sure the super book nerd would really love this book, that really likes to just have a book just spin them around on their head like that. I'm sure they would love that. So
it's like 30 books in one, in a weird way. Yeah. It's like a metaphor, like what one book should be. They do that in like every story is this massive dump of like information.
So I actually started reading the book. I read the whole book and I thought all of these things, but then I listened to a documentary on alchemy, and it opened up a whole new thing to me. And I'm actually reading it again with that information, and it's kind of like different now. So I'm kind of excited to go back through it again. I haven't reread the whole thing again, but I have reread the first part like 3 times. So,
well, it's kind of cool too, like how alchemy, they actually found a way to turn metal into gold, but it's still so expensive that it costs more than it does to just mine it. And so anyway, it's actually, they can actually do it too with the technology. But
to my understanding, the whole alchemy thing is like an entire movement. It's almost like a religion, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I had the other question about the book's title in relation to like the book. What did you think about that? Because the title of the book actually made me think, when I first started reading it, that the boy was just the alchemist and that was it. Because you had told me about the book before, and that was like the thought process I had when I dove into it. And I was like, and then that's actually what I was saying. I didn't even realize until I got to the documentary. I was like, okay, the main person of the book kind of isn't the boy. It's like all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So
I agree. It's like watching Caddyshack.
How?
No.
It's like ski school,
There's a
man.
story about a boy, but no one cares about it. You want to watch Bill Murray try to kill gophers.
In the movie version of The Alchemist, was Bill Murray the boy or the alchemist? Wait, if Bill Murray's the alchemist, what's Dan Aykroyd gonna do? I don't get it.
Chevy Chase is the alchemist.
Yeah. While we're laughing, there was something that I did keep chuckling about in this book. How many times did you hear the boy remark on the girl and talk about how she was attractive and she was from the Moorish conquerors and all that stuff? You know where I'm going with this? Do you remember what that's from?
Oh, no.
So in Seinfeld, in the episode where the boy, the bubble boy, George asks him, okay, in the 8th century Spain, who conquered Spain in the 8th century? That's what it was. And he's like, the Moors. Wrong, it's the Mooks. He's like, Moors. I just kept thinking of that scene.
That's awesome. I hadn't put that together. Mm-hmm. But the Moors were a North African race, right? North African country.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. It's a good story, you know. It's cool that it, you know, kind of relates to me and being a preacher's son. You know, he kind of like he does the seminary thing early, and then he has the sheep. And it's kind of cool to see the relationship he has with the sheep, you know, and like then you realize it's like the relationship with my dogs. That'd be hard to leave. Like people, I mean, you feel so needed. He had to lead them to the water or they die.
Right.
And, you know, so, you know, and there's a lot of cool little things to catch in it. I don't know what else.
One other thing I wanted to mention on the actual story before we dive into talking about specific details of the story was that I felt like the story developed kind of like chronologically versus like a bunch of different storylines going on, like some books or movies or whatever do. But it was like the story is told almost in like chronological order, almost like on a timeline. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
A lot of books don't do that. They go through like a day or something. But it was almost like the TV show 24, the way that they.
Which is funny because we were just talking about how it's so hard to follow, but he made it easy to follow.
Yeah, but they talked about sunrise and sunset, and it was like each thing was a day, but then all of a sudden they dive into a whole nother scenario, but then the boy was just having a dream or a thought, or he was curious about what if this would happen, and it was like a whole
all of a sudden he's just staring out over the ocean, talking about sand and wind. It's like, what happened?
Yeah.
You had to back it up.
And then I would almost be like, I'll just keep going and it'll get back to and then it never does.
It never does. Like so you have to go back I've done that one.
I'm going to have listened to this book like 15 times by the time we get done with it.
Like just to understand it.
4 different podcasts, and I read the same book 20 times. I can imagine too, the next book we do will be like way more complicated, and I'll read it like twice or once, and I'll be able to.
It makes you wonder. It's going to be fun to experiment with that, just to see the difference between this one and all the rest.
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's like we're trying to do the Bible and metaphor, the metaphor Bible or something.
Talking about deep themes inside of it that no one understands. And are you talking about his dream or his girlfriend? We don't know.
We don't know. What happened? Not sure. If Richard's watching, he probably can't even type. You know what I mean?
I think we're so right now. We're just.
Oh, that's cool.
Just us.
That's fine. This is one of those things too. People can watch back on it pretty easy. Like it'll be a one people watch back. I love the freaking background. The Matrix above a fire.
Oh, that yeah.
I mean, what else? If you just had boobs like right beside you on the other side.
If I had what?
Boobs.
Boobs? That makes everything better.
That's one thing could be better. What? Did that just
I should get some. So So his father's, I wrote something down about his father's description, how the visitors of the area reminded me of our talks about vacation and travel. Did you think about that? Like whatever you're looking for, it's not there. He talks about how, if uh, like how amazing that their city is, but the boy always wanted to get out of it and go like see everything else. And the dad's kind of like, there's nothing else out there. Also reminded me of Seinfeld and Kramer. You're thinking there's something else.
There's not.
It's all you in here. That's it.
And it did. It just kept unfolding that like, he's like, I'm here, but okay. There's nothing special,
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing I went through when I went to Europe twice, I tell people still to this day, they think I'm lying when I say that freaking northern Arkansas and southern Missouri, that's best places I've been to.
It is beautiful down there. Well, and like we have talked before, like going on vacations really, and Jim Gaffigan says going on vacation is just eating food somewhere you don't live.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Sleeping on a different bed every night.
Yeah, that's actually worse.
With weird sheets that you don't know. What?
Some people have a travel bug and some don't. Some people want to sit around and read the Bible. Some people want to drive sheep all over the place. You never know.
Good point.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Did you notice how in the book almost nobody has a name?
Yeah,
the boy, the alchemist, and Hayden had brought that up to me, and we were talking about it. And she's like, "Why didn't anybody have a name? That makes it even harder to follow." And I wrote this down here somewhere. The boy was reading his book. He was actually annoyed because he said, if I would have wrote this book, I would have introduced the characters slower, so it was easier to read. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The book he was reading in the plaza, and I was kind of laughing because I was like, this book's hard to read, and no one has a name. Everyone's just like the shop owner or the person in the alley, and
it's probably
the same name.
It could be easier than a real like Moorish name. It would be hard for us to understand.
That's a good point, because I wrote down also the only person that did have a name was the king, and his name was like Milchei's Deck or something like that. It was like a really
something
unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, the king was awesome.
Yes.
Like, I want to be that guy. Please.
I wonder if Disney ever made a story of the Alchemist. If not, why?
Good question.
That'd be a good thing for them to do. Dang it! I shouldn't have said that out loud. I should have done that myself. Should call Pixar.
I invented Reebok pumps, but they stole it from me. Had it right there.
Is that Dance Exponents? Is that Richard?
Yes, he is. Because I think it's a Australian 80s band or something like that.
Oh.
I've heard they're pretty good. It's that power pop bull. Him and Travis Tyson, like the Kinks.
He says, "Yep."
I think the Kinks are good, man. When I started studying them, instead of sidetrack us, never mind.
Yeah, let's stay on the book. Richard, did you finish the book, or are you still working on it? Okay, here's one thing I wanted to bring up. The boy, when the boy went to see the gypsy, right? He noted that he could not trust the woman. He said he was worried about gypsies because she, oh shoot, I must have typed this while I was driving. It was a voice to text thing. Anyway, my whole point was he was worried about not trusting her, but there was like a big picture of like Jesus on the wall behind her. Did you remember that?
No.
I actually thought that was ironic, because I was like, why would if they were in the Middle East or wherever they were at, and it was in a gypsy woman, but then they had a picture of Jesus.
I think he was still in Spain at that time, but it was southern Spain, so
that would be like Roman Catholic or whatever.
But she was like a gypsy, which usually they didn't have religion,
right?
Which is interesting. I didn't catch that. Yeah, I thought that there was so much condensed in there. That's why it was hard to follow that first bit, because when he's in that town, he's going from place to place. He's talking to the king, and all of a sudden he's in the bar getting stuff stolen. You know what I mean? It was like boom, 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 so fast. Once he gets going, it's a little bit easier to follow, I think, too.
Richard says that part was about keeping promises.
Yeah.
Keeping promises to the gypsy.
Yep.
Actually, they did make a movie that has that scene in it, and that's from the movie, Disney. That's from the Holes, when Shia LaBeouf goes and sees a gypsy woman, and he makes a promise to her, and then he breaks it. So I only know that because I have daughters. So, but it actually was one out of all the Disney movies. It was pretty funny.
Uh-huh. It's a good point. Yeah, I thought it was a good part of the book. Especially because it was a way, like, not how he thinks,
Mm-hmm.
What about the king when he had to do the test?
Which test? Remind me.
When he had to hold the oil.
Oh, yeah. He had to walk through the castle and, like, not spill the oil. I kind of knew that. I expected that to happen, though, because he said it beforehand. So he told him, make sure you don't spill a drop. So I knew he was going to come back and have not even looked around and seen anything. So
right,
I expected it.
But that's another thing, like power of telling someone something.
Right.
He didn't have to do that.
Didn't have to do what? Didn't have to tell him in advance?
He could have spilled it. What was the repercussions? You know what I mean? He just said it.
That's a good point. It's like if you're
maybe there was repercussions. Maybe he did say something. I can't remember. Anyway, we just listen to what people tell us sometimes. We just do it. Like, okay, we're easily brainwashed. We'd rather not think about it.
First 40 years of my life, for sure.
Wait, how old am I?
I wrote down also, we were talking about how the book is hard to read and it reads almost like a riddle. The part when he was talking to the king and he was actually imagining his future scenario with a girl asking him questions about his travels and like how cool he was. That was one of the ones where he was way jumping in and out of scenarios.
Sorry, Bo was screaming out the window.
He put the boy said at one point, dreams are the language of God. When he speaks in our language, I can interpret what he has said, but if he speaks in the language of the soul, it's only you who can understand it.
That's what the boy said?
I think so. I might have typed it wrong. It may have been the king.
I think that's what the king told him.
Yeah.
Told the boy.
I didn't quote that correctly in my notes. So.
And that's what the king was getting him ready for the alchemist. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he could understand that way of thinking. The king was awesome. Like, please, let me be that guy.
Yeah.
I did think it was funny, too, at the end. We're like, oh, I got those rocks, too. And he thought they were so special. And they were just like, it was like it's a Rubik's Cube or something.
Yeah.
Like dice.
Did you notice how irritable the boy always was with the old woman and the king?
Old woman.
Like the gypsy. The boy seemed so irritable and like impatient and like just annoyed.
Because he wasn't getting what the answer he wanted to hear and stuff.
Right.
That's just being young too, In a weird way, it's good because you think everything's possible, but it's bad because you think everything's possible.
Like your naiveness is so strong.
But naivety is so good too.
You think you can do anything, but you actually might be able to just because you're so naive about it. Maybe you'll fake it till you make it accidentally.
Kind of, yeah. It's like the time when someone asked me, like, when I was gonna power wash their house, like, have you power washed before? I'm like, yep. I didn't lie. I hadn't power washed a house. I just power washed before.
Think how many times you've done that and then wonder how many times you've been on the other end of it when you're working with somebody or doing something and they're acting like they know all about what you need, and they don't.
Well, it was one of those times where I knew it wouldn't be a big deal, but they didn't ask me exactly that. So
let me ask you this: back to the old man, the king. One thing I read it like 5 times. The part where they're talking about it, that he said he wanted 1/10 of his sheep or whatever, and then he comes back and ends up losing all of the sheep. I think I missed how that even happened, even after reading it multiple times. Were you clear on that?
he had to sell the rest for his supplies and his way to Africa or to the pyramids.
So then he got all the money, but he just lost it in the bar like 5 minutes later.
Well, yeah, it's great. Yeah, exactly. And it's a great lesson too about, what the king said. He's like, you're promising something. How do you say it? How do you say it? Crap. Well, anyway, because he was asked, he's like, why should I give him my flock before I even get to the goal? Just like kind of the same thing with the gypsy,
right?
And I forget how he said it, but he was like, how'd the lesson go? Do you remember? Man.
Not exactly. I remember he wasn't. He was basically saying, I'm not going to do the same thing the gypsy did because I want the money now. And the boy was expecting him to do that because the boy was like, yeah, I'll just give you a percentage of what the treasure is when I find it.
But the way he said it too, gosh, I missed that. Anyway, he said it so perfectly. It's just, it was another lesson of when someone gives you help and advice. Sometimes you have to pay it forward before you get there, and you have to prepay, even if you don't have the treasure yet.
You have to pay a toll.
Yeah. It was just cool to see all the little lessons, and
one thing I noticed, speaking of the writing, I wrote this down. Did you notice a lot of the sentences start with a conjunction? Like that's something that made it hard to read. I was like, did I miss something? And then the guy went over here and went to the alley where the guy at the alley is.
Yeah, but this is written in like what, 20s, 30s? When was this written?
I don't remember. I should have wrote that down. I don't think it's that old.
Maybe it's not.
I mean, definitely need to look that up. But
I think Abraham Lincoln gave him some of the notes, actually.
I'm thinking an old wooden ship. What's I'm thinking? This is where we start completely making stuff up. One of the quotes I wrote down that I wanted to get to is it says, the soul of the world is nourished by people's happiness and also unhappiness, envy, and jealousy to realize one's personal legend is a person's only real obligation. All things are one. It's heavy, right?
Yeah. I agree, Bo. Take it easy.
First of all, what is the soul of the world? What's that mean to you? What do you think that is?
It's like the Holy Spirit, I guess Christians call it, or
the Force.
Yeah, Yoda. Be mindful of your thoughts, young Jedi. Bubba, come here. But yeah, it's and I think it's just talking about like the consciousness of the world can go up and down, be bad or negative, negative or positive. Hold on.
That was such a good run. Here's a topic you guys can talk amongst yourselves.
Sorry.
Cold War.
He wants to go bark at a dog.
Imagine that.
But yeah, and that comes back into play over and over and over again, especially with the Alchemist. But I don't know. I kind of feel that way sometimes too. Like I'm the guy that talks to everybody's dog, and in a weird way, I understand what that is kind of saying is like you pay attention to everything around you kind of deal instead of you're in the present is almost more of how I see it. You're enjoying every moment and not trying to rush past to the next 10 minutes. But
soul of the world. What do you think? What do you think one's personal legend means?
I think that's what everybody has to figure out. But I think it's all.
I think it's purpose, finding purpose.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Those words are so. Yeah. So loaded, but yeah, I mean, kind of. But I think you can have lots of purposes all at once too. In my opinion, it doesn't have to be one. I think that's the whole purpose. Is everybody's purpose should be the same thing. I guess maybe like just getting better every day, or trying to see more of. I don't know. Just if it's that little, then it doesn't have to be such a big thing of like finding something so massive. It's just do better than yesterday. If everybody started doing that, we'd all be in a better place.
Yeah, saying a person has a personal legend does sound like there's only kind of one thing and that's it. Makes it seem like you can't do anything else.
It makes people freeze, and there's some things I don't. But anyway, But I also think you got to have some kind of goal and purpose too, or it'll be eating ice cream and Netflix if you're not careful.
So that's bad.
No, it's actually really good. Milkshakes too.
Richard says, my personal legend was to move back to New Zealand and remove myself from everything I've ever known, no friends, no history, and see what I could do. It's a big leap. Well, we're still here for you, bud.
You took Fran, and your parents and brother were there. Yeah. But yeah, not having a job and starting scratch and not being in that. Yeah, I agree.
I'm talking about doing the same thing.
But yeah, it's got to be tough. Moving another state is one thing. Moving another country, good Lord. And because like we don't understand it, like where he's from, New Zealand, they give their jobs to New Zealanders first. So you come from the States, you're not going to get the best jobs right away. Usually. Maybe I'm wrong.
Usually you are.
Yeah. This is where we need Hayden to come in and just go, yeah, he's usually wrong.
Yeah. That's funny. Last thing I wrote down was a quote. I think it was from, it was the boy. He said, I see the world in terms of what I think should happen, not what actually happens.
I think we all do that. And that's why expectations bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
We always talk about our feelings being hurt and all that bull. It's our expectations were broken. And it didn't happen the way we wanted to. And then we cry like a baby. I've never done that, by the way.
Never cried like a baby?
I've never had expectations.
Right. Me neither. I think I relate to the boy a lot in things through my work and the way I think and some of that stuff. And I've also always been really naive. That's why at this point in my life, I think I'm scared a lot of times to make a decision because I've made so many that I'm like, as soon as I make it, I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this? Or why didn't I ask this question? Or,
Yeah, I know you pretty well. You don't make a lot of really naive. If they are naive, maybe a little bit at the beginning, but it always ends up being where you need to be. So, my opinion. But yeah, I think we have to be naive to take chances. Because if we weren't naive, we would just sit around and watch Netflix and eat ice cream.
Well, that's true. And the only way to really get rewarded is through some type of risk sometimes, or taking, chances. Like you said, playing it safe all the time won't get you as far.
Yeah. And the boy, he wanted more. He wanted more than just, maybe even though it's just treasure, it's still, he wanted more. And that's why, people say money and all that stuff's terrible, but that's what gets a lot of people off their butt. So it might be bad, and some people are going to use it bad, but I guarantee you in the long run, it's good. If you took it away, it'd be awful.
Was there anything that was talked about in this book that made you study something else?
No, I don't know if that's not necessarily.
For me,
it did get me to read more nonfiction. I mean, more fiction, because I was kind of stuck into reading scientific stuff. So it kind of opened me up to look at it, because that's easier to read.
Right.
This is a lot harder to read because you got to read inside the riddles. It's a book of riddles.
Yeah. What was that movie with Leo DiCaprio where he's like in different layers of like consciousness? That's what I think of.
Yeah, in a weird way. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know which dream they're in anymore. That movie was terrible.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't know. So, even after the fourth time, I found new things, looking at it a different way, just because my life's changed, and that's probably over what I read that like 5 years ago, probably first time. I read it like once a year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into the second part again with my kind of fresh set of eyes and trying to follow it a little bit better, I guess.
Believe me, I did it again. I watched first part the fifth time. Still seems like I'm catching stuff.
I've already started working on the next book, but I need to slow down that too. And like, I'm going to go through those like right as we do them though. So
you've already got our books picked?
Yeah. You said I could pick the next one. That's pretty much all my notes. You got anything else? You got like a whole book you're getting ready to open up over there?
Not right offhand. It was really interesting though how much he like dreamed, and they, you don't hear a lot of people talking about how much he dreamed. It made you wonder why he had so many vivid dreams too, and it were so like specific.
Too much wine.
Yeah. Maybe he hangs out with the sheep way too much.
Yeah.
Maybe he's eating some of those mushrooms up on the hill.
Maybe the mushrooms were in the wine. Little psilocybin was already in there. We've already read about that. That's a whole nother book though.
Yeah, it's in the bottom. There's too many things, man. But I think it's a great book, but it's definitely one of those that you kind of need to like reading, or you won't get through it very fast.
Yeah.
Because most fiction books are like fun, happy. They get you to hooked in, with stuff real quick, and this one's kind of like, whoa.
Indeed. All right, we're going on 35 minutes here. Unless you got anything else, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's good.
I will say, Richard, if you're still watching, I know you're probably not able to, but I will say if you could step away for a minute, I can put the link in here and we could bring you in and we could go off the air and chat if you wanted to come in.
I think he's with some.
I know, but I'm just saying, I don't know if you're still doing that right now, you could hop out of there for a minute just to say, if you want to, no pressure. I'm just throwing out there. It's possible.
But any time in the future, when we get done, we can go in the back and it won't be live.
So how do I bring them into the broadcast? I guess if I just put the link in, he could click on it and then I could end the broadcast, and we'll still be in the green room. I could bring him in,
We'll
right?
still be in StreamYard, but
Yeah.
YouTube will be done.
Yeah. No pressure, though. I'll wait a minute if you want to do it, and we'll hang out for a minute here just for like 30 seconds and see if you want to. If not,
Excuse me.
maybe.
Yeah. So I like the background a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I was getting everything. I was sitting here waiting for you, and I was looking, and I realized it had like family pictures all around on this thing back here. I was like, crap, I don't want all those there. Not that I don't trust anybody on the internet, but I don't really trust anybody on the internet. So,
well, why? Yeah, I understand. I like my Beatles.
Didn't you have the Pink Floyd picture of the butts there before?
Yeah, it's up there. I
actually have that.
I took it down whenever my YouTube channel just got hammered back.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was part of it, maybe that they were considering it. And then I was like, they have girls with G-string all over the place. Like, how's that worse? You know? But
well, it's maybe it's how many butts you have on there at once.
Good point.
Yeah. I bought that. I got that same poster. When I move, I'm gonna put it somewhere. I don't know.
I love it. It's more than 5 butts, so we're gonna have to.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna end the broadcast. Richard, if you can for a minute, yeah, I'm gonna end it on that note. Richard, if you can hear me and you want to chat for a minute, just say something in the Facebook group, and I will. I'll get you the link, and you could still hop in with us, but we won't be live, so it don't matter where you're at, but it won't be on the internet. All right, everybody, if you're next time get the book, go on YouTube, and you can find it for free. Listen to the audiobook. Y'all be good. Talk to you later.
Cheers.